Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. Conference realignment. Oh, boy, this is going to get heated. Vandy could be out at the SEC. We're going to talk about that. Texas A&M going to the Big Ten. Notre Dame to the Big Ten. And then we're going to have a little SEC tourney breakdown. Now, this could get a little bit rough. Vandy fans, look, this may not be the video for you. This could get a little bit upsetting. You might want to listen to Humongous here.
Just walk away.
Yeah, it might be best to walk away because this could be a little upsetting. And look, I like Vanderbilt just fine. They're founding members and all that, but there is talk of them being asked to leave the SEC. I don't know. We'll talk about that. This is a story in Fly War Eagle by Andrew Hughes. It says the SEC can pay Vanderbilt to become an independent. And these stories pretty much come from Greg Swain, a longtime football analyst and radio host. He says, since Vandy is sadly already grandfathered into the SEC and obviously only in it for the money at this point, perhaps the SEC can pay them to go and stay independent.
How dare you!
There are behind-the-scenes talks with ESPN and Fox Sports, the Big Ten and SEC reps about how to dump those schools that bring nothing to the TV table. And Vanderbilt's draw has not been very much. They don't even fill their own stadium. And as far as viewership on TV, it's paltry at best. It's just not been very helpful. And they've already got the University of Tennessee for the state of Tennessee. So that's how all these TV executives look at this stuff. And they're the ones that are offering the big money. The SEC with ESPN, Big Ten with Fox Sports. It says it's not the first time a pundit has taken aim at the Nashville-based college. ESPN's Bill Connolly said that both Vanderbilt and Mississippi State are still in the SEC solely because they were founding members, not the results on the field. But I can tell you this much, if I'm Vanderbilt, you'll have to throw me out. There's no way I'm leaving the SEC, and we'll go over the financial numbers here in a minute, but they'd be crazy to leave. You know, they're going to have to be forced out, be the only way, because there's way too much money that they receive by being a member of the SEC. Being an independent, that just wouldn't work. I don't know what they would do, honestly. Now, granted, on the field, they can't compete with the SEC. Everybody knows that. And on top of that, they've got one of the best schools in the country, really. They really belong in the Ivy League as far as their level of education, but they're in the SEC, so it kind of is what it is. I don't really want to see them go because I kind of like Vanderbilt, but, you know, that's easy to say when we usually beat them. But there's going to be a lot of pressure to get rid of them. Honestly, you can just look, it's dog eat dog now. This conference realignment, nobody cares about anybody's feelings anymore. They just don't. There are no safe spaces in the SEC anymore or the Big Ten.
Everyone likes me and thinks I'm great in my safe space.
My safe space.
And here we're going to talk about Texas A&M and Notre Dame. And now we're going to talk about Texas A&M and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame needs to figure things out. Them staying independent, given these circumstances with the Big Ten, the SEC, the college football playoff, automatic bids, all that, if they stay independent, they're just creaking themselves. They are putting themselves in a bad spot.
Are you stupid or something?
Because they're going to be not included in a lot of things. They're just going to have to go after at-large bids, and it's going to get tougher and tougher for them. At some point, they're going to have to pick a spot. And that's where the same fella says, who are the next two teams to join the Big Ten and make it the Big 20? They're already to 18, by the way. He says, our terrific Chicago sources tell us that he's hearing it'll very likely be Notre Dame, who has obviously always been invited to the Big Ten. They've been trying to get them for years. And Texas A&M, because Big Ten wants to get into Texas, and the Aggies are very unhappy with the addition of the Longhorns. They're furious that Texas is now in the SEC. They hate that. You got to realize, here's the thing about in-state rivalries, and I've told you this for going on a year and a half since I started this channel. When it's in-state and you've got two teams that are kind of equally matched, it gets real nasty, and they don't like each other. Florida State and Florida, they really don't like each other, and Florida does not want FSU in the SEC, which is probably going to happen. And Texas A&M having Texas come in makes them furious. I mean, they're like this all the time, and they don't want to be in the same conference. They don't want to be in the same state with each other. That's just the way it is. So Texas A&M could very well wind up in the Big Ten because I can see the Big Ten really wanting to get into Texas with a big name. And this would obviously do it for them. And then he talks about that there will be no invite to the non-AAU teams for the Big Ten, which means FSU nor Clemson will get invites into the Big Ten, which they belong in the SEC anyway. And if you don't know what AAU is, let me show you. The AAU is an Association of American Universities, organization of American research universities devoted to maintaining a strong system of academic research and education. It was founded more than 100 years ago. It's like 71 universities, and it's kind of the hoi polloi of universities.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon? But of course.
As far as academic excellence and all that. So the Big Ten, I think every team but maybe one or two are part of the AAU, and they want to continue that at the Big Ten. That's just kind of one of their things. It's a feather in their cap, if you will. So that all comes down to what happens with FSU and the ACC and their big lawsuit. And there's also talk that Clemson is going to possibly either join that lawsuit or start a separate lawsuit against the ACC because they want out. And those two teams would be a perfect fit in the SEC. Now, I can't tell you that South Carolina and Florida are going to be happy about that. I'm sure they won't.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
But there's only two games in town right now that really matter, and that's the Big Ten and the SEC, because that's where the big money is, that's where the big teams are for the most part, and that's where everybody's moving towards. And the money's only getting richer and richer. And I'll show you a couple of charts that will show you exactly why. Now, I showed you this the other day. This is the college football playoff money distribution. The SEC is going to get $23 million per team for that tournament, the 12 team. The Big Ten is going to get $21 million. The money's actually the same for these two. That's what they're working on, but the Big Ten has more teams. The ACC will get 13.7. The Big 12 will get 12.3 per team. So obviously they're only getting about half as much money for the college football playoff. They also won't have as many automatic bids. So that's getting expensive. Then I'm going to show you the total monies as far as TV contracts plus the college football playoff, and you'll see why these other conferences are starting to fall behind. And it's probably only going to get worse. And this is your total money for conferences. The Big Ten with the college football playoff, they get $79 million. It's like 58 plus the college football playoff. Now, I will tell you their contract's a little bit squirrely. That's probably not 100% accurate because they got some little weird things in there that could pull that down a little bit. It's probably a lot closer to the SEC. They get $74 million per team, including the college football playoff. That's what they'll be getting per year moving forward. The Big 12 gets $53 million per team. That's including the college football playoff. ACC is about the same thing. It's extremely close, within $1 million of each other. Now you look at that and say, oh, well, that's only like $25 million a year. It's not the end. Well, it is kind of the end of the world when you figure that the ACC's got a contract through 2036. The SEC and the Big Ten don't. So their money's only going to continue to go up, especially as they add these big-time schools. Remember, the Big Ten just added USC, Washington, UCLA, and Oregon, the whole West Coast. So that's going to make their TV contract even more lucrative. It'll probably go up. It would have to. And they're adding big-time teams. If they add Notre Dame and Texas A&M, the Big Ten becomes even more relevant. They're already huge. And, of course, they're directly competing with the SEC. The SEC is going to try to get FSU, Clemson, and several other teams, probably a North Carolina or an NC State or a Virginia Tech, one of those two. And then there's Miami. So there's a lot of teams out there that they're going to be vying for, and that AAU status will make a difference as well. If you're not a member of the AAU, you're probably not going to the Big Ten. And that's going to help decide between which schools go to where. So don't be surprised over the next 12 to 24 months. If you don't see these very things happening, I could see Texas A&M getting steamed enough to go to the Big Ten. I could definitely see Notre Dame going to the Big Ten. They need to. They're really being foolish at this point. This whole independent stuff, look, it's not 1995 anymore. Y'all need to get with the program or you're going to get left behind. And you're going to be over there at the at-large table or the kids' table when it comes to college football playoff. And that's going to make you less relevant. As far as the ACC and the Big 12, you can tell what's going to happen here. Big 10, SEC, they're going to separate. They're going to become their own league with all the big teams, probably 50 to 60 teams. They'll probably have 20 to 30 teams per league, and that's going to become college football. And then the Big 12 and the ACC are probably going to be the smaller schools. They may end up having their own playoff. It's hard to really say, but all the big schools are going to wind up in those two major conferences. I don't think there's any question about it. Everybody sees it. So the shuffling is going to happen over the next, like say, 12, 24 months. I think you're going to see massive moves. You know, who'd have thought the Pac-12 was going to disappear like that? It happened overnight. And the Pac-12 been there 100 years. So don't think it can't happen, because it absolutely can, and it will. Now let's get into our SEC basketball tourney. I want to talk about that. And here is our brackets. Right here you've got Tennessee at the number 1 seed position, Auburn at number 4. They're sitting there in the quarterfinals waiting to see who they're going to play. Tennessee's going to play either Mississippi State or LSU. And then Auburn's going to play probably South Carolina. They're going to play the winner of Vanderbilt and Arkansas, and I would expect South Carolina to win that game. So I'm thinking Tennessee's going to play probably an LSU team. Well, I don't know. Mississippi State might win. They should advance. Auburn, South Carolina's pretty tough, but I would think they'll beat South Carolina, but boy, you don't know. Could be either one. So the semifinals could be really good. Then you've got the hottest team in the country, and I thought it was Tennessee, but Kentucky came in there hot, man. They shot the lights out at Thompson-Boling and beat us by 4, and they were ahead the entire game. And that Reeves and Shepherd, they shot the lights out. They scored 54 points between the two of them, 27 each, and they shot over 50% from the three-point line. If you're shooting over 50% from deep, you're going to win almost every game you play in. Basketball's too fickle for that. It's who's hot, and Kentucky is hot. And what usually happens with them, I've been saying it all year, they start out really rough. They all these 5 stars, they're freshmen, they don't know how to play together, they don't know how to play as a team. And as the year goes on, they get stronger and stronger, and that's what's happened with Kentucky. That's why they become a dangerous team in March Madness. So Kentucky will be playing either Texas A&M or Ole Miss. They're going to handle that game. Then Alabama is probably going to be playing Florida in the quarters, and then Kentucky and Alabama will square off in the semis, which should be a really good game. Those are going to be 2 high-scoring teams, Alabama being the number 1 offense in the country. So it should line up to have a great SEC tournament this year, because the SEC's loaded. I mean, I'm telling you, Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky, Alabama, and South Carolina, and Florida. Those are really good teams. You know, these are all top 20, top 10 teams. Should be an awesome tournament. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, you should take it easy in the tournament because you're already in the NCAA rest and all that. Athletes don't think like that. You get a chance to win a championship, you win it. You know, Tennessee won the SEC regular season. That's a big deal. You get that ring, you get to wear that for the rest of your life. You will always remember that championship. And if you get a chance to win the SEC tournament, go for it. You should try to win it. Athletes don't think like that.
I'm sorry, winning. You starting to get the concept now? Oops, winning.
I can tell you when I played golf, I didn't go out there, I'm going to take it easy. No, I tried to shoot the lowest score I could. And that's what these guys are going to do. So I expect a terrific SEC tournament, and I don't expect anybody to take it easy. I really don't. And Tennessee's right now looks like they're going to get a number 1 seed in the NCAA. They need to win probably one more game just to cinch it, although the NCAA really doesn't like counting tournament play towards it. Unless you win the tournament and then you get the automatic bid. They usually bid you before that. So we may be already in the number 1 spot regardless. We'll see how it plays out. But one more win just for insurance policy. But I want to see them win the whole thing. And it should be a heck of a tournament. It should be a lot of fun. It's in Nashville. Now, here's the thing about the SEC tournament. A lot of people call it the Kentucky Invitational because they bring the entire state of Kentucky down to this tournament, and they buy tickets for the whole thing. I mean, they really take over whatever gym is there. But this year, with Auburn being good, Auburn travels. Tennessee will travel, especially in Nashville. Alabama's traveling right now for basketball because they've gotten good. So don't be surprised if Kentucky doesn't completely take over the gym like they normally do. I think it'll be a battle for seats. Anyway, I did want to cover the SEC tourney a little bit. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know continue to cover. Oh, gosh, I did hit the record button. Jeez, I thought I forgot to hit the record button. I've done that like a dozen times. Whew. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Hit this little button. I'd appreciate it. Doesn't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video. YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.